to everyone out there on the internet. Welcome to the inaugural episode of hashtag Real Talk with Aaron Bragg. I will be your guide on this journey to make security and technology easier to understand. Before we begin, just a little bit about myself. I am currently the lead Internet Information Security Analyst for a local healthcare conglomerate. In the past, I've been a former business analyst and a web developer, and I still do a little bit of web development on the side to keep my skills fresh. A quick legal disclaimer before we get into things. All the security advice I give in these podcasts are as is, and while it is based on real world experience, always seek out other advice and guidance. What topics I plan on covering this next year are, besides making security and technology easy to understand, are trying to concentrate on things that can help small and medium-sized businesses be more secure. These have a big impact not only on your business career, but a lot of security items that are happening out there can affect your personal life as well. So we're going to try and make all these things easier to understand. We're going to be looking at 2019 cybersecurity in review. I'm going to talk about 5 key areas that I think we can learn from in 2019 and bring those forward into 2020. So they're broken into key areas here, a little bit of cloud security, Internet of Things, ransomware, and kind of like the impacts of different things that has happened in 2019. So the first one we're going to kind of dig into is like the direct impact from small and medium-sized businesses, or SMBs. Just today, I saw an article about a marketing company that had to shut its doors for the last couple weeks due to a cyber attack. But I haven't had a chance to really read up on that one yet, so we're going to dig into the one from early this year. Happened here in Michigan, relating to a doctor's office in a city not too far from where I live. So a little small practice, I think it was ear, nose, and throat doctor's office in Battle Creek, Michigan, unfortunately was hit with a ransomware. The downstream impact from this ransomware attack is, rather than pay the ransom, the business decided to close its doors. And if I remember things correctly, I think these doctors were close to retirement. It was a smaller doctor's office that had a smaller amount of patients. But I think what a lot of people don't understand is, even though it's small compared to like an Anthem or other things, it still had direct patient impact on, and impacted people's lives. And even if it's impacted one person's life, that's kind of one too many, compared to everybody having perfect security and life being all, roses and chocolates. One of the things we can kind of take away from that ransomware attack is, kind of the main theme of 2019, right? It was the importance of having just basic security hygiene, what it means to have like good antivirus software, running new operating systems that kind of support automatic updates. These are all basic things that you can do with your small and medium-sized business that don't really cost a lot of money. That's the kind of the biggest thing that I'm seeing here with working between, all the business people that I work with at my day job, and then all the Cloud Security Alliance stuff that I'm doing at night. Sometimes it doesn't take a lot of money to get your hygiene up. You can do a lot of basic things to get things up and running. Yes, having great security software strengthens your positions, but a lot of times it's, basic security hygiene. So, recommendation for, other doctor's offices besides having, spend a little extra money, get Windows 10 or, whatever your operating system of choice is. Make sure that automatic updates are turned on. And then, do regular, shut down your computer like once a week. I mean, these are simple things that you can build into your daily work process or weekly work process to help your doctor's office be more secure. One of the other things that I would recommend for a doctor's office like that is, having a solid backup plan. Nowadays, if you have a solid internet connection and you're looking to have it be more convenient, cloud is a good way to do backup. I know that Microsoft, Box, Google, pretty much you name it, any major cloud service provider has different options for, backing up important files. And that's definitely a topic we'll have to dig into in a future episode to give more detailed instructions on how to do like secure cloud backup. If you're not a big fan of the cloud, then you can still do offline storage, backups with hard drives. Nowadays, the cost of hard drives is so cheap, and the newer technologies out there, like USB 3.0 and even gig wireless out there, that's relatively expensive, that you can take the time and do regular backups to, your hard drives. The bigger part of that is, you want to make sure that your computer backups are part of your overall, disaster recovery plan that you have. If obviously you have solid backup strategy, but, your doctor's office gets in a fire or something like that, then all that information's gone. So maybe do something as, back up a hard drive once a month if you're a smaller business, and have two copies of it, one at the office and one at home. You can spend less than, $200 or $300 to have two 4 terabyte backups. Keep one at the office offline, obviously, because, if you have it connected to the internet when the ransomware attack happens, then, chances are they're going to get a hold of that backup drive. And then have one at your house. So you don't have to have, redundant data centers to, have a good backup strategy for your business. But, that would be my recommendations for like, smaller practices that can't really afford major things that can help their business be more secure. So kind of like the second thing I want to talk about, especially that's hit the news a lot recently, is the hack of the Ring cameras on the front door and the Nest camera systems. And while that's really scary, that's kind of also another thing that can be easily not fixed, so to speak, until those manufacturers really take security seriously and start baking in security into their process. There are things that you can do yourself to help protect your devices from misuse. Obviously, again, going back to basic security hygiene, you change your device's default passwords. If you're not really, if you are smart enough to understand the need to have security at your house, and you can basically hook up, you're, tech savvy enough to be able to hook it up to your Wi-Fi, then you're savvy enough to do some basic security controls, and I'm not meaning that as an insult to anybody, but, if you've set the time aside to hook it up to your network, make sure everything's working connected, take an extra 5 or 10 minutes and do things like change your default passwords. Some of the systems, if there's multi-factor authentication, you'll hear the term MFA from time to time. See if those, if it's supported. If it's supported, turn that stuff on. Because most often than not, that 5 or 10 minutes you spend, taking the time to make it a little more secure will pay off. It's not something. Think about your IoT devices as not something that it's not like a bank, right? It's not like your app. You're not going to have to, log in every day. So, having a longer password or taking the time to set up those protections for those IoT devices will pay off because, you don't, yes, you can write the password down, put it in your safe if you're old school, or new school, use like LastPass and other password managers, which aren't always the best, but we'll talk about that in a future episode. Where, just taking that little bit of time at the beginning of the setup, don't worry about the stress of the maintenance later on because it's going to kind of pay for itself. The other thing that you can do is put your Internet of Things devices, so like, if you have a Hue or Ring, Nest, Alexa, stuff like that, whatever it is, you can put that on a separate network because most of your home routers, like I have right over here to my right, have the ability to do like a guest network and like a regular network. So what you can do is take the time to put those devices on your guest network, still have your guest network password protected, but kind of separate those things out. And there's a neat video that I found on LinkedIn. And give me a second while I look up the gentleman's name. Gabriel Friedlander, and I apologize if I butchered your last name, but he runs a security awareness training company, and he has a neat little video on, what I just talked about on how to secure your IoT devices. And this has become such an important thing where even recently the FBI has put out like a bulletin to kind of chime in saying that, the current state of security with Internet of Things is not that good. So please take the time to, secure your home network a little bit more. And in spite of all the bad publicity politically, and we're not going to get into that, we don't talk politics here on this podcast. The FBI do have your best interest at heart. So even though they're the government, and whether you have a government conspiracy or you're subscribed to government conspiracies or not, overall the FBI still has the best interest in mind for you. The one kind of last thing I want to talk about that in regards to like, the hacks, and I'll put some links to different articles below. Obviously, for those of you listening on a podcast, you won't really be able to click on the links, but if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, then I'll put this information out there. But it's kind of like the importance of these device manufacturers starting to take security seriously, whether it's not doing absolute generic default passwords. As a former web developer, it's not really that hard to bake stuff in to your software to say, okay, you know what, this is your initial password. After you log in the first time, then you're forced to change your password again. So any company that tries to tell you that, oh my gosh, that's an extra huge software cost to put that logic in their software, is full of it. I mean, they really are. As a former web developer, does not take that much more time to bake in some basic security controls in the code that you use for these IoT devices. Start taking multi-factor authentication, MFA, seriously. Again, it's not really hard to do that stuff. So I did happen to join a conference call. I can't remember if it was this year or last year, that the NHISAC was putting on in regards to starting to lean on manufacturers a little bit more to get them to take security a little bit more seriously. So that's definitely an episode that we'll have to follow up, or a topic that we'll kind of have to follow up on in the future. So, and if I didn't say it in the intro, I plan on having different guests on the show. Fortunately, through the Cloud Security Alliance and working in the healthcare security the last 4 years, I've met a lot of different wonderful people that have really great ideas, and plan on interviewing them. And we'll probably try and have regular guests from time to time. The third thing on the cybersecurity year in review for 2019 is around the amount of cities and municipalities that were compromised is just scary. I mean, it really is. And while I feel bad for all the people that are directly affected by that, at the medium and lower levels, that's one of the things where I put that squarely on leadership in those different cities. And I know that sounds a little bit harsh, and if you're one of those leaders listening, sorry, this is hashtag real talk. We got to call it out. It is what it is. The days of thinking that this is not going to happen to us, or, I just can't get the board or anybody else to understand the importance of security, or, the archaic thinking of, well, it's not going to happen to us. There's however many thousands of cities in the country or other large cities. It's not going to happen to us. You really can't have your head in the sand anymore. You really got to start taking, security seriously, at the highest level. Just start budgeting in, what? It's 20, maybe your 2020 budget's already done. Well, find different areas of the budget to shave from, do you really need the, I'll have to go in and get examples of kind of like frivolous spending, but, and I hear some of you out there saying, Aaron, well, you know what? We're a tiny, we're Zealand, we're Holland. For those of you not familiar with the Michigan area, those are nice cities, but they are smaller cities that may not have like a big budget. Well, you know what? Talk with your leaders about just saying, hey, this particular week of this month, we're going to do free cybersecurity awareness. There's plenty of tools out there that people can use that don't cost a lot of money that can help with security awareness. So if you don't have the budget this year, look out there for the free tools that are out there. Try and go to your local chapters of, Cloud Security Alliance, the ISSA, more acronyms for you, everybody out there. Sorry. But I mean, there's lots of people out there in the security space that are willing to give some time to help small and medium businesses be more secure. You just got to take that first step, and I'm begging you leaders out there to take that first step. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can budget for big bucks later, but for right now, there's plenty of free stuff that you can do out there to basically start to make your municipality and your city more secure. That is the one thing that's kind of nice about security that a lot of people don't understand. Everybody understands that cloud strategy, the big thing about cloud is it can be scalable. Well, believe it or not, security can be scalable also. I mean, you can start small, yeah, you know what? You might walk in the door and be like, wow, we have this. We don't have our perimeter secured. We don't have a security awareness program. We don't have the proper email, security email systems in place. Well, don't look at it as this giant mountain of security debt that you have to tackle, right? Like if you're climbing Mount Everest, you don't just look at the top and say, well, I can't do it because how am I going to get all the way up there? You got to look at it as like steps, and plateaus, right? Where, okay, you know what? In this first quarter of this year, we're going to do this for our security program. In the second quarter of this year, we're going to do this. These are all things that you can do. Just you have to make time to do it, because guess what? The bad guys have all the time in the world. And I know a lot of vendors are doing scare tactics, and I understand that there's kind of like a lot of fatigue out there with yet another company got breached, or yet another company misconfigured their cloud security, and now my information's out there. Which we'll talk about those things in the future, but you can't just give up, right? I mean, there's data out there that they don't have. It's kind of I in my own household, my wife, who's an analyst for our company's EMR, I know that she gets frustrated sometimes, says, why bother? Why are we doing this for security? Our information's already been compromised in Equifax. Why do I care about this? Well, what you care about is the fact that, yeah, you know what, her and my data may be compromised now, and we have to do crazy things like, put credit locks and freezes and stuff like that on our account, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But you know what? We have children whose information hasn't been compromised yet, right? Or future children haven't been born yet. You can't just holistically give up on it just because your data is compromised. You have to look at protecting, the future. So that's why it's never too late to start. It's never too late to be more secure. So speaking of cloud and cloud security and some of the things that we've kind of seen lately, all the Google Cloud security breach from earlier, and the Amazon AWS, Amazon Web Services bucket. And when I say, since this is a small and medium podcast for small and medium businesses, let me stop for a minute and go back and talk about that. When I say like Google Cloud was breached, or breaches due to like use of Google Cloud or Amazon Web Services, stuff like that, it's not those companies themselves. Like Google did not get security breached, right? One of the systems that they stood up for other people got breached. The same thing with Amazon. And again, I'll put links to these articles below, but it's not like Amazon itself didn't get hacked or compromised. They sell secondary services, cloud services, and what's happening is in the rush to get to be first, first to the market and stuff like that. I mean, my healthcare system, we have an insurance wing, right? I understand the importance of being the first to the market, with this or that. But you know what? You have to look at the risks associated with that. And if you didn't take the time to evaluate or look at some of the, the risks, security risks, financial risks you're bringing on with that speed of the market, then you know what? Chances are it's going to bite you in the butt. Because again, hackers nowadays, these guys I don't even like the term hackers anymore. We need to think of a new term for them, right? Because it's not somebody in your parents' in their parents' basement. That's, the whole stereotype, the guy in his, this young kid in his hoodie just hacking to hack. Yeah, you know what? That may still be a case, but we're going into 2020. There's nation state actors out there. There's different countries out there that are putting serious money and resources into, making this a business, right? It's not just nation state actors, right? It's not just the script kiddies in their basement. It's criminal organizations too. I mean, yes, you know what? You don't have Saul and Paul and all the other Italian cats bootlegging moonshine and everything anymore, but organized crime still exists in the cybersecurity realm, because you know what? There's money to be made, and whether you're a white hat or a black hat or whatever, as long as there's money to be made, then people are going to do these things. They're not going to stop doing these things, and just because more hashtag real talk, right? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean they're going to stop doing it. You can't go to, this kid. There was an article where it shows these kids in Russia or Ukraine. I can't remember exactly what country, but these kids were, these guys were $60,000, $70,000 cars, just wanting their lifestyle. As long as that type of money can be made, people are going to do this. So, sorry, I got a little bit off tangent there. We were talking about cloud service provider misconfigurations. So, again, not to beat a dead horse, but basic security hygiene comes into play on these. Design and plan your systems with security in mind, right? Don't rush to the cloud. Do your homework first. Find out if the cloud is right for you, right? Because while the cloud is wonderful for your small business, especially if you're going to start out, a lot of companies started in garages, right? Or started in their home office. The cloud does give you the ability to scale, and the cloud is a wonderful thing. But just because it's there doesn't mean you need it. Take the time, do your homework first. See the different things that you're going to need to do to make sure that your cloud configuration is secure. Make sure that you have read all the fine points in the contracts, right? And we'll talk cloud security configuration in the future episode, but a lot of people aren't reading the fine print. Like, what's the penalty if you want to move out of the cloud? I know firsthand a story this year where a CISO had to make a decision, not my CISO, make a decision around, for financial reasons, not to or to either continue his contract with a cloud security provider or take it out of the cloud. He didn't read the fine print, or somebody's company didn't read the fine print and realize that there was a massive cost for taking the data back out of the cloud, right? And that's one of those things where that guy had to make a decision around, do I take the chance and hope that we haven't had a hack in the last 6 months or a year, or however long his data was, and then move forward with using that funding elsewhere, or just pay what the fee is, and then get his data out, and knowing that that fee impacted his security budget for the next year. I'm not sure which choice he chose, but I mean, that's a position that I would not want to be in. So please read the fine print. And again, it doesn't matter whether you're a small mom and pop shop with, 2, 3, 4 employees, or, a medium sized business with, 50 or 100. Take the time to read that fine print. And finally, one of the other things was around, the financial impact of security breaches is kind of like on the rise. IBM called out a report from earlier about, the true cost to, what a security breach costs nowadays. So the biggest part about that is, budget early, understand the importance of cyber liability insurance, and why secure configuration matters. It is what it is. Whether you like it or not, you have to budget for information security. It doesn't have to be a lot when you're starting off. You can scale it up as your business gets bigger, but that's kind of like the big things that I've seen from 2019. I know there's a whole lot more, but for this first episode, I have to, figure out what went well, what didn't go well, and make some tweaks to the podcast and the YouTube video to see what you guys like, what you didn't like, what you would like me to talk about in the future, what kind of guests. And then as a bonus here, let me slide over to something real quick. I'm going to give a sneak peek on some survey results from a survey they were doing for the Cloud Security Alliance, to talk about what 2020 cloud security topics that people want to talk about. So give me a second here while I pull it up. The question was around, I had people prioritize what the topics were. So I gave the 6 topics of cloud security strategy, cloud application security, cloud identity, cloud risk, meaning like third, fourth, nth party risk, cloud policies and standards, and finally cloud networking. And I asked everybody to kind of rank them in order of importance to them. And the preliminary numbers that I'm seeing is the overwhelming majority of people that responded are still looking at 2 major things. The most important things to them going forward in 2020 is an overall cloud security strategy and cloud application security. And I can't say that I'm surprised by that, right? Like a lot of these events that we did in 2019, these were kind of like the reoccurring theme along with those, and I can't be really mad at anybody that hasn't really set their cloud security strategy in cement or in stone for 2020, right? Because that's the big thing about security is it's very, fluid and dynamic. So cloud application security. Now, this is something that does excite me that people are wanting to ask more questions around and learn more about is cloud application security. Because as we move more to software as a service, or SaaS, these things, cloud security, application security is going to be kind of important. So that's a little sneak peek into some of the topics we're going to be dealing with in our West Michigan Cloud Security Alliance chapter. And as we do more of those events, I'll try and take some of the information from those events and bring it back to the podcast. So in the meantime, as we're 2 days away from the beginning of a new year, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen in or watch in. Hopefully it was either entertaining or you did get some value out of it. And I plan on making the future podcast topic specific, so we'll actually be able to get into real things that you can do to help your small and medium sized business be some more secure, and then in the end your personal life becomes more secure also. So thank you for joining me, and be safe out there, and email me with comments, send me a message on LinkedIn, or for those of you that are checking out on YouTube, leave comments below. Thanks again. Have a good day.
Has anybody